In the late 1990s, car audio competitors had to choose a class they wanted to compete in, and just so happens the lowest wattage class was now the 1 to 150 watt class, 4 ohm rated amplifier power. Orion had recently revamped their amplifier lineup in 1996 with their third generation of amplifiers and what many refer to as the pop-top models. One unique amp in this lineup was the 150 HCCA. This amp incorporated 4 channels and was hybrid in design, meaning 2 channels were high voltage and 2 were high current. It fit perfectly in this low wattage class with the rated 150 watt total output of the 4 channels, again at 4 ohms. Early 1997 brought the Concept lineup from Orion and the first amplifier, the Concept 97.1. This amp was stated to be optimized for sound-off competitors. In reality, it was just a 150 HCCA inside a raw aluminum heatsink, but I digress. More Concept models were introduced, including a digital EQ, component speakers, and later in 1997, another amp. Check links below for an overview of all the Concept models and a deep analysis on the 1 watt Concept 97.3. As you may have guessed by the title of this video, we're going to take a deep dive look into the Orion Concept 97.1 today. But first, we've got to get it unwrapped. So let's get into it and see what it's all about. I sound like an old guy when I say they don't make them like they used to. Well, in this case, it is true. Check out this raw aluminum finish with the clear coat. This amplifier is just beautiful. But let's dive real quick into the features and specs. First up, the features. The 8-pin DIN connector provides 2 channels of inputs and outputs, as well as phantom power for various Orion accessories. Those who are interested can see the pin layout here. We also have a power LED, which is a red power LED above the RCAs. Speaking of RCAs, we have 4 channels of input, which are non-Tiffany style, unfortunately. Also, we have 2 channels of output for your stereo left and right pass-through. Each channel pair also has their own gain control, variable from 200 millivolts up to 5 volts. Also, we have the Made in the USA by Orion here on the right side of the amp. Also, you will notice a slot here, which is for the cover release in order to put a flat blade screwdriver in, and it disconnects these pins which go into the amplifier, which again was a horrible, horrible way to keep this top on the amp. But I'm going to take this one off. Although it does not have the pins in, you can see where they go. But you can see most people during this time utilize the good old Velcro or hook and loop fasteners. That way it helps keep this top on. Also helps it keep from rattling, because it does rattle kind of bad if you're not careful. Now, hidden under this panel is 2 factory installed DVX2 crossover modules. The DVX2 is an extremely flexible crossover module that can perform many crossover functions. 12 or 24 dB per octave high pass or low pass based on the crossover frequencies. Also 12 dB per octave band pass operation. And crossover 1 can be independently routed through the aux output to an external amplifier. On the opposite side of the amp, we have the speaker outputs as well as the fuses and the power input. Let's start off with the speaker output on the far left. The 4-pin Wecco style connector accepts 16 gauge, and this is the high voltage section of the amplifier, channels 1 and 2. In order to bridge this, you use channel 1 minus, channel 2 positive. It's very interesting that channel 1 is the right, channel 2 is the left. Beside that, we have a 5-position Wecco connector, which again is 16 gauge. This one includes the remote wire as well for turning on the amplifier. And for bridging, channel 3 minus, channel 4 positive. Again, the left is the right and the right is the left. Go figure.
Step up! This is not a Mickey Mouse program!
Now, Goofy may disagree with these Wecco connectors. When you plug them into the amp, you need a freaking pry bar to be able to get these things back out. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on to the other features of the amp. The ATC fuses, now these should be 40 amp, but for some reason, some big dummy put 30 amp fuses in here. To the right of that, we have the power and ground connection. This is a Wecco style connector again, 2-position. This is an 8 gauge, but it also is available in a 4 gauge connector, showing you a very close-up look here of what it looks like with the little flappers on the inside. When you tighten up those screws on the bottom, it tightens the flappers down. 4 gauge one here is kind of a square shape, much better for running your wires into this amp, and it really needs 4 gauge instead of 8 gauge. So I would recommend using a 4 gauge if you get your hands on one of these amps. The features include tri-mode capability, which means it can run stereo and mono simultaneously on the same channels, has a military spec double-sided circuit board. It has dual power supplies, which are MOSFET and called pulse-regulated supplies. Also complementary matched bipolar outputs. And the hybrid nature of the amplifier, meaning the front 2 channels are high voltage, rated at 50 watts by 2 at 4 ohms, 100 watts by 2 at 2 ohms, or mono 200 watts at 4 ohms. And some of the specs say 400 at 2 ohms. We're not sure about that. The other 2 channels mimic the 225 HCCA, stable down to 1 ohm mono with up to 400 watts of output. And I can hear the comments right now, 400 watts for subwoofers? What are you talking about? Well, back in the 90s, we had efficient subwoofers, smaller magnets, less moving mass, and yeah, they could kind of get down with less power. In this case, 400 watts on a couple of 10s or a couple of 12s. Yes, my friends, that would make for a pretty decent system, and sound-off competitors use these all the time. So yes, you could get by with 400 watts on a couple of subs, and no need to upgrade your factory electrical system. Rejoice! Back to the lecture at hand, let's look at the 1997 Car Audio and Electronics Directory. Under the amplifier section, we'll see the Concept 97.1 under Orion. Price is $1,099 in 1997. That's equivalent to about $2,220 in 2025, so big money. Also, look at the car stereo review, and it has a little bit more information here. Again, $1,099 in 1997. So you had to have a fat wallet to get this amp. Also, some decent trunk space to be able to fit the 22 inches in length, 8.5 inches in width, and 2.2 inches in height amplifier. Now the part many of you like to see, the amp dyno test to find out the true output power of this amplifier. First, here on the left, you'll see the power output in watts. In the middle, the ohm load. On the right, the voltage of the dyno. We'll also have the clamp, but the way this amp is set up in 4-channel mode, it's difficult to calculate efficiency. So let's move on to the first test, which is going to be channels 1 and 2. This is the high voltage channels, and according to the specs we have, it says 50 watts by 2 at 4 ohms, 100 watts by 2 at 2 ohms. We're going to run all the tests in mono, but we will calculate them properly for you. 8 ohms mono, 100 watts is equivalent to 4 ohms stereo at 50 watts by 2. Let's try it here, 1 kilohertz. See if we get 8 ohms mono, 100 watts, no problem. Actually, we get 256 at 14.46. It jumped to 257 right there at the end. We'll move up to the next test, which is 4 ohms mono, rated 200 watts. That's equivalent to 100 watts by 2 at 2 ohms stereo. 1 kilohertz, certified to 1% distortion. I bet we're going to get the 200 easily because we've already gotten the 200, and check this out. That's right, almost 500 watts, 478, 14.34, well over the rated power. Now, the high power channels also say they're 2 ohm stable. We're not sure about that, but watch all the way to the end of the video and we will find out. Now, the high current section of the amplifier here in the center, channels 3 and 4, we're going to test next. These are rated all the way down to 1 ohm mono. So we're going to test 8 ohms mono all the way down to 1 ohm mono. Starting off with 8 ohms, it's rated 50 watts, which is equivalent to 25 watts by 2 at 4 ohm stereo. 1 kilohertz track, certified to 1% distortion. Can we get 50 watts? Yes. 137 at 14.6. And I know some of you may be saying your voltage is too high. Well, it is a little bit high here, but that's okay. 4 ohms mono, it's rated 100 watts, or 2 ohm stereo would be 50 watts by 2. Let's see if we can get that. Certified to 1% distortion. 4 ohms, we get 247. Again, doubling and almost 2.5 times the rated power at 4 ohms. Next up, we'll try 2 ohms mono, rated 200 watts, equivalent to 1 ohm stereo at 100 watts by 2. Let's see what we get. Certified, again, 1 kilohertz. Certified is up to 1% distortion. What can we get? And we get 380 at 14.38 volts, so nearly the rated 400 watts at 2 ohms. But we're not done yet. We're going to try 1 ohm mono where it's rated 400 watts. It's equivalent to half an ohm per channel stereo at 200 by 2. Let's see what we get. Certified. Can we get the 400 watts? And yes, we can. 478 at 14.22. Again, this is a half an ohm per channel load on the amplifier. But we're not done yet. We're going to show you the other test here, the dynamic test. Find out how much dynamic power it has, and check this out. It keeps going well above 550 watts. We got 555 at 14.42. So in many ways, this amplifier is special in the fact that it's a special edition. It's also way underrated at its power output, especially on the front two channels. We got more than double the rated output almost every test. And then on the high current side, we also got more than rated in every single test. So very impressive here for the Orion Concept 97.1. Next up, we're going to get the amp all hooked up so we can try it out with some speakers. If you want to see the full test of this, make sure you check my Old School Stereo channel. I'll leave it linked below. Let's hook it up. Now let's get inside the Concept 97.1 and take a closer look. First, we'll take the pop-top panel off, and then we're going to take off the screws of one end of the amplifier here so we can get inside and see what the internals look like. Here we go. Let's take this side panel off after we get all the screws out, and then we can just slide the bottom panel out so that way we can actually see the internals of the amp. And here it is. And here's the inside. Now this one's been completely recapped. All the capacitors recapped by Sean King. It has Nichicons in here, very high quality capacitors. It was cleaned, and yeah, this amplifier is good as new. This amplifier incorporates the XTR 275 and 225 HCCAs as one amplifier. It has 5 power supply MOSFETs per side and 6 bipolar outputs per channel. The 150 HCCA and the Concept 97.1 are this same amp internally, and if you look at the 425 HCCA, it looks the same as well. However, the transformers are slightly different in the windings as well as the Zener diodes there. The 425 is a little different because it is high current. This is a XTR 275 and 225 HCCA. Let's move on to the pros and cons of the Concept 97.1. First off, the good stuff. Clean looks. Nichicon capacitors in this case. 12 or 24 dB per octave crossovers. The unique hybrid design has high power on 2 channels, high current on 2. Has half an ohm stability on the high current channels. Rare and hard to find. And yes, it has RCA outputs as well. Things that could be better. They are hard to find and expensive. Complicated crossovers, very difficult to operate. Weco speaker and power plugs. The pop-top pins always get lost and they make the amp rattle if you hit the bass hard. There's no Tiffany RCAs. And no remote bass control. Soundstream had it during this time. What's up, Orion? Well, they fitting to tell you because Orion is back. That's right, they brought some of the old guys, or OGs, including one of the original designers, Mark Bucer, who was there from 84 to 97. Bill Turner was there from 97 to 2004. And of course, Jack Calley, 99 to 2003. Pretty interesting to see what these guys are coming up with. They've already released their first model, the NT100 and NT200. You can check links below. I'll link to their website. You can see this. But yeah, these are not cheap, but these are made in the USA. They're milled there at the Orion facility using all the original style components. Very cool. And also very cool, there may be the 225 HCCA making a comeback. Wouldn't that be so cool? Stay tuned to your local Wilson Audio channel. We will find out because we will get one in if they do come out. Now this amp is rated 2 ohms mono on the high voltage channels. Not sure why because it's not really stable there, but we're going to try it anyway. Certified to 1% distortion, 1 kilohertz on the high voltage channels, and we get 461, 2 ohms mono, 14.22. But we're also going to try the the dynamic test here. Again, 1 kilohertz dynamic on the front channels, which are the high voltage channels, not designed for 2 ohms mono or 1 ohm stereo. But check this out. Over 750 watts, 14.49. Crazy power for this amp that's only supposed to be 150 watts. And we're proving here over 800 watts for this quote-unquote 150 watt amp. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Leave me a comment below. Thumbs up. Till next time, this Big D. I'm out of here.